And welcome back. It's begun. What a big week it is. State of Origin, Matthew. We're about to do our preview. We have our review on Wednesday. But I also wanted to look ahead just for a second. We have Tim Tszyu up next week, letting people know ahead of his big fight.
Yeah.
As well as the week after, friend of the show, Thomas Starling. So if you haven't already, like and subscribe. Leave a positive review. No negative stuff, because without you guys listening, without you guys engaging, we wouldn't be able to do this beautiful thing that we call life in this podcast.
And two good guys coming up. Tom Starling, of course, playing the best football of his career in a team that is top of the table and will finish in the top two and very well could win the premiership.
Correct.
And the other one, yeah, as you said before, Tim Tszyu against Sebastian Fundora on the same card as Manny Pacquiao and Mario Barrios, which is huge on July 20. So, yeah, a couple of big ones coming up and look forward to it, Coops.
Correct. But let's not focus too far ahead, because right now in the present, State of Origin Game 3, a very much anticipated game, a big decider in Sydney. Last year it was at Suncorp. Queensland territory, this year in New South Wales. Have you played in any deciders? And if so, where was it?
I only played 4 Origin games, but yeah, one of them, my last Origin game was a decider in 1998 at the Sydney Football Stadium. That was the game that I had the worst preparation. I've spoken about it before. Because I was dropped. I was unsurprisingly dropped after game 1. I was barely used. I played about 15 minutes off the bench, and I was surplus to requirements, so I got dropped, and then. That was a split round. So me and a few of the Newcastle boys who went out and had a meal, had about half a dozen, maybe a dozen beers, and then I woke up and then I got tipped off that night too. So it was crook, and then got a call from the morning and said, "Mate, you're in. Get down here. You're playing hooker." Went to the airport. There was no ticket for me. Went to buy a ticket. There were no seats on the plane. Luckily, the pilot went past, and I was sitting on the floor in the cockpit between the two pilots. Got down there late for the game. Got there for the game, but late in preparation.
So just to jump, because I've heard this story a few times, and I never actually picked up. That was on game day, right? So they asked you to fly the day of the game. This wasn't for Captain John, right? This was on the Wednesday.
No, I went down. I landed, and then a few hours later, I'm on the way to the Sydney Football Stadium to play. And Cooper, of all the Origins I played, it was a low bar as far as how I played, but that was the best game I played. I played hooker. Firstly, for 2 reasons, I reckon. I played my best Origin game. I didn't think about it too much. Just went out there and played. And secondly, playing hooker. Playing hooker was so much easier than playing in the halves.
Really?
Harder physically, but you don't have to steer anyone around the park. All I could do was make sure I made my tackles, give good service out of dummy half, and if there's one mark alone on the ground, scoot. Very simple. Yeah. Simple things to worry about, as opposed to having to corralling the whole team.
But it's a different fitness, right? Imagine the lungs would have been burning.
Well, I played about 12 months of hooker coop coming through the grades when I was younger, and so you sort of get used to. But it's totally different.
Oh, mate.
Totally different fitness, but there's a different feel in the decider. When got to the ground and ran on, there was and the nature of the contest, it was more intense.
Yeah, it was. Was there a lot more? What was the crowd? What do you remember from the crowd?
Full house.
Full house?
Yeah, full house, Sydney Football Stadium, 40,000.
How did that compare to let's say a 97 grand final crowd? Because was that at Sydney Football Stadium as well?
Sydney Football Stadium. I think the biggest crowd ever at Sydney Football Stadium was grand final, that 97 grand final.
Yeah.
But, different. I don't know. It's just a very different atmosphere, very different feeling. As proud as you are representing New South Wales, there's something very special about playing a grand final with your tribe.
Yeah, and I imagine the tribe that you grew up with, right? It'd be like the Travojevic brothers running out for a grand final. I imagine that'd be quite emotional for them. Not that they will get that this year. No
pressure on them. Look at what's happening in Israel and the Ukraine. No pressure.
Exactly, mate.
And the other thing, mate, you're going to die.
Exactly.
You're going to die soon.
Eventually,
work backwards from that.
Gives
you a good perspective.
Yeah, but let's go through some of the teams. Let's start with New South Wales, because they had no changes, right? There was a lot of speculation that they were going to drop the chef Stefano.
Bring in Keon.
Yeah.
That looked like it was going to be likely.
Yeah, okay.
But for anyone that knows Laurie Daly, there's no surprise that he's stuck loyal.
And did you like that? If you were coaching, how do you like that decision?
As far as if I was coaching, I don't know. I would have been tempted to bring Keon in, but I'm actually, once the decision was made to keep Stefano, I'm actually really happy with it. Yeah. I'm happy for him. There's far too much in New South Wales in the last 4 or 5 years. Just pick a bloke, drop a bloke, bring him in, get rid of him.
And I think you look at that game as well, like New South Wales did not come out of the blocks hard. And by the time Stefano was on the back foot a lot of the time, that Queensland pack was so up for it. It's very hard to judge. You know, you put him in that game 1 performance, he might go out there and blitz him like Payne Haas did. But that game 2, it's very hard for someone through the middle to actually have an impact because Queensland was so up for it emotionally, right?
And the other one, you're spot on. And the other one is it takes a player time to get used to State of Origin. Like I just said, in my last Origin game, I reckon I finally sort of got the hang of really what it was about and what you needed to do. And so Stefano, every game he'll play, he'll get better. And if you drop blokes, you just lose them.
Yeah,
like you lose them if particularly blokes who are unfairly dropped. It's very hard to pick them again because they just lose. They lose faith and trust in the whole process.
Yeah. Stefano is I met him a few times actually, Steph. Terrific bloke.
I hear he's a lovely kid,
mate. One of the most humble blokes I reckon I've met outside. Particularly, he played Origin by the time he'd already gone to Melbourne. He played 1 game under Madge, but he's just such a humble bloke. The boys say as well, he rips in at training. Like, he just works so hard for a big man, always wanting to learn. So it's good to see Steph back in the side.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really happy for him. And you can see the more he plays at the Melbourne Storm, you see him bit by bit getting better. He's still doing a lot more offloading now. He's probably getting more and more comfortable there. So,
looks fit.
He looks, unsurprisingly, when you go to Melbourne.
Yeah. Looks unbelievable.
I don't know if you've ever been there,
I was there. Okay. I was there. Yeah, I played there for about 5 years, mate.
Yeah. You did. I mean, the big story, Coop, is the Queensland team. You got to respect Billy Slater from this because Billy's willingness to take some big selection gambles, even if it means changing a winning side, and possibly getting hammered afterwards because of it, being heavy criticism, in the pursuit of following his gut feel is really to be admired. And when Kalen was injured with the Liz Frank and they needed a fullback, given the very fact, Coop, two reasons I thought Reece would be picked was because Billy's never been backwards in his admiration for Reece. And the second one was that if you were going to move Hammer back to fullback, you had to find another centre. Now, probably the position that they lack the most depth in is centre, Coop. Given the fact, like young Robert Toy he was picked on the right centre position only after a few first grade games. And so for that reason, I thought to myself, no, he'll keep Reece, he'll keep Hammer in the centres, and he'll put Reece at fullback. But Hammer's in better form, and he decided to put Hammer back there and go, right, I've got to find myself another one. He's gone with Shibasaki.
It is interesting because, like, somebody, particularly Slatsy, who has been under someone like Craig Bellamy for a long time, Bellamy's big thing was always like, you don't want to weaken another position to strengthen another position, if that makes sense. Like, you don't want too much rearranging going on. By putting Hammer, who was on the wing in game 2, to fullback, it now looks like they're going to have to move Valentine Holmes to the right wing to then bring Gemmet Shibasaki into left centre. So there is a lot of changing of combinations. You got to move the bloke who did a good job at left centre, Val, over to the right wing, Hammer to fullback, a debutant at left centre marking Stephen Crichton, which is possibly one of the biggest jobs on the field. It shocked me too that it wasn't just bring Reece in and then you get to keep all the other pieces the exact same. Which is unusual for somebody who has done a lot of his learning under Craig. But I mean, I actually like what he's. When I look at the side now, I do like what he's done because it's an in-form side. Like Gemmet Shibasaki, he's been in terrific form for a Broncos side that's been quite inconsistent.
It's a very much a feel-good story, Coop. If he goes out there and brains it, it's a fairy tale story. Given the fact that with Gemmet, he has played 45 NRL games since 2018. So 2018, he's gone Broncos, Knights, Cowboys, South Sydney.
No. not set. He went. So after Knights, he went to Japanese rugby.
Yes.
And then he come back to the Cowboys. Then went to Townsville Blackhawks and just played there.
Yep. And then he had 2 games at Souths.
Did he?
Yep.
Oh, I
And
didn't
he
even
had
know
a
that.
couple of games at South. Then went back to the Broncos, and as you said, stint in Japanese rugby in between.
Yeah.
And every club he's been at, it's only been a very short stint, and they've allowed him to go. So for him to arrive this year, and Mads has had a fair bit of criticism this year about training too hard, but the proof's in the pudding there with him.
Yeah.
Like how good he's playing.
And he was a boom junior. A lot of people probably don't
Was he?
know that. Yeah, I know he played under like 18s, under 20s Origin with the likes of like AJ Brimson, Harry Grant was in that side as well, and they all raved about him, saying how good he was coming through juniors. And then, for whatever reason, when he first sort of come into first grade, couldn't find his feet a little bit. I know that Broncos side he first come into, they really struggled. Like that, I think that was the year they got the wooden spoon.
Awful time to go into the Broncos.
Yeah, you saw a lot of blokes kind of fall. Like Xavier Coates kind of came in and out of that side. A lot of blokes struggled with consistency, but it's good to see him going good.
It's interesting that you say that because Coops, when Tom Dearden first went to the Cowboys, and of course Tom Dearden had about 3 years at the Broncos. Poor bugger in the worst possible time.
Yeah,
I spoke to when we're trying to unlock the reason why did Shibasaki bounce around, never could find really get any traction. Talking to Todd Payton after Tommy Dearden's first year at the Cowboys, and he said, I said, given that what he'd endured at the Broncos, tell me how did Tom Dearden turn up? He said, mate, he was a nervous wreck. He said he just picked his nails at training. He said he just felt that sorry for him, and bit by bit, they got that out of him, or they drew some confidence out of him, or injected some confidence, and he was able to be the player that that everyone knew was in there somewhere. But he was just traumatized by the whole Broncos experience. Might have been the same with Shibasaki. As I said before, it's a feel good story. It could be a fairy tale, but it's an enormous risk.
Yeah.
If we're going to talk about it in the cold hard light of day, it's an enormous risk, because what you've got on the edge, the centre is a position where you'd get one-on-one battles still. Not a lot of positions on the field you do, but the centre is one that you definitely do. So they've got Robert Toya and Shibasaki against Latrell and Stephen Crichton.
Yeah.
Now, those two players, as far as experience in high-pressure football, are not even in the same postcode. Not even the same country.
Yeah.
So that's the extent of the risk that Billy has taken.
Yeah. Jack actually played with Gamet, I believe, as well.
Did you,
Is that
Jack?
right?
Up?
Correct. Hang on, let me turn him up. Jack?
Yeah, I actually played with him at Newcastle 2021. He good fella too, Gamet. He struggled a bit through 2021. He debuted at the Knights. He debuted at the Broncos, I think, the year before, and then he played a handful of games, I think maybe half the year or so, and finals for the Knights in 2020. And then 2021, he just sort of struggled a bit and struggled to get back into contention.
What's he like as a bloke?
Oh, champion fella.
Is
great,
he?
Great bloke. Good, honest, real happy bloke. But it was really hard for him too, because he's in the top 30. I'm pretty sure in 2021 he didn't even get brought up to the COVID bubble. I think they left him. He then from there went to Japanese rugby. So because he has a Japanese passport.
That's right. He has a Japanese passport.
Well, Shibasaki is very much sounds like a Japanese name. So interesting. One of his mum or his dad got Japanese heritage.
What about his facial hair?
Because it must be either his dad or his mum, because Japanese passport is probably the hardest passport to get in the world.
Yeah, that's right. Because isn't there that old story about Hugh Jackman?
Hugh Jackman, Gus told me, Gus Warland, who's Hugh's best mate, when Jacko goes to Japan, they absolutely go nuts because they love
Wolverine.
The Wolverine. They love the cartoon sort of.
But he also filmed that one of the Wolverines was based out of Japan as well.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, there was that one where he fought like the Japanese samurai.
Yeah, right. So Jacko goes there a fair bit and enjoys amazing popularity there. Remember that Gus told us the story there, and I was going to say Japanese restaurant in Japan, but of course it is. He was in a restaurant in Japan, and he had a hat on, and one person just pegged him. And he said within 15 minutes there were 2,000, spotted him.
I'm glad you picked that up.
Yeah. And within 15 minutes there were 2,000 people out the front of the sushi restaurant just chanting for him to come out. But, he loves the country so much that he actually inquired whether he could get a Japanese passport, and they took offence.
Wow.
Yeah.
So why do they take offence to that? Is that just because they
Of all the countries in the world, no one preserves their culture like Japan.
they like to keep it very
Japanese.
Co-
It's and that dates way back from the old days of the Christian missionaries and everything. What happened when St. Francis Xavier went in, but that's a whole different story. Let's not go there now. We're talking state of origin.
That is true. We get sidetracked sometimes. What about the other big inclusion? Big Josh Papali'i out of retirement back into the Queensland side. How did you love that?
Well, this is another bombshell, but it's not a big risk in my opinion. It's not a big gamble.
No.
He's dropped Mo Fotuaika from a winning side, the golden rule. Again, Billy's gone, no, my gut feel is we need something, I'm going to make the change. Again, I admire him for that. Big Papa's, he's brought, from my understanding, I was talking to Cooper Cronk, Billy's had this up his sleeve for a couple of series. And this was the one, okay, I'm going to produce the ace right now. And because they're going to need something, Coop. For Queensland to beat New South Wales in a decider in Sydney, given the team we had, they're going to need something special. And he's brought him in for a big lift and inspiration, big lift and emotion. And yeah, it's a good story. It's a little bit like Alf, Alan Langer, returning that time from England. Look, I mean, not to that extent, but it's a big one. If you look at the pack, I mean, Tino, Carrigan, Papa. And you got Kurt Capewell in the back row as well. It's a formidable pack now.
Oh,
beefs it up.
Yeah. And when you talk to the Canberra boys, like obviously Tommy Starling and Zach Hosking, who we have a lot to do with, talking to those lads, what Josh Papali'i brings in the sheds and emotionally to a team, like they all love him so much and they all admire him and he brings the best out in other players. And even I remember when Munster used to come back from State of Origin, he played with Papa before he retired from the State of Origin arena, but he'd come back and rave about Big Papa in there. Like having somebody, because they haven't really had a player in that Queensland camp probably the last 2 games who the young crop look at and go like, I was watching this guy play State of Origin and play for the Raiders when I was 15, 16.
Yep.
Like, he's been around for a long time, Big Papa. You don't realise how many games and how old he is.
Well, I reckon Tino, Papa would be one of Tino's heroes.
Yeah.
So Tino would be just pinched himself going, mate. Right. And for people who don't understand that, it's not just admiring your hero playing. It's actually those players trying to impress their hero.
Yes.
Going above and beyond to say, all right, I'm playing alongside this guy. I'm gonna show him I'm worthy.
Yeah, it makes and that's not even in the game. That's like all week at training.
Yeah.
Like that's having a bloke there like that. The intensity that it brings to the training session. Because as you know, Matthew, when your head coach, your head coach might be sick for a week, and you have the assistant there. The intensity, the training load, nothing drops, but the intensity drops 2% of each of the players because you haven't got that presence of the leader there who's sort of. He doesn't have to say anything, but him being there brings everyone up.
Yeah.
It's the same with players. Like when players go out to go play State of Origin, I have no doubt that the training sessions at Clubland, they drop in intensity a little bit because those key players leave. Josh Papali'i going to bring that to that side. Yeah,
definitely. And he went into camp a few days later than everybody else because his wife had newborn son. So fantastic. So Billy allowed him to stay with the family for a few extra days.
And Stefano also arrived late. Did you read that?
No.
So he missed his flight day, which is like, imagine that, right? You're Stefano, and there's reports that you might lose your position. They stick in. He goes, bloody oath, I'm going to go into training. I'm going to rip in all week. I'm going to go out there and play an awesome game. The first job you have is to make sure you get on the flight at the right time. Apparently, he read the boarding time, the departure time as the boarding time. So he's obviously thought it's an hour later, and he's in the taxi out there on the way, and he looks down and realizes that like it's boarding as he's driving out. He had to ring Frankie Panisi, and go, sorry, Frank, I'm not going to make my flight.
My God.
Oh, mate, that would be
sure Keon didn't send him the flight details.
Nah, probably. But, mate, that is the most anxiety. He'd be wigging out so bad.
That'd be awful. So, Coops, this series you've gone into camp.
Yeah.
What's Bellyache like? What's his demeanour as part of the coaching staff compared to what he's like at Melbourne? Did you find him intense, as focused?
You know what? Like, even chatting to a few of the boys, like we had Presto and Connor Watson come on the potty, and they sort of spoke about how he doesn't really do much video. He's just sort of sits back and lets them do the thing. When I was at the training session in camp, in there, very much the same. Like he was just sort of standing over the side, just sort of watching the training session on his own. And then I was going up and yarning to him while he was watching. He was lighthearted as. I don't think he's putting too much. I don't think he's riding like he obviously rides that club emotion, but the strength of Bellyache, which probably a lot of people don't understand, is how observant he is. Like, he's not going to sit there and go, this is, do this and that with all the shapes and stuff. But he is so observant of players, and like he sees things that no other coach or person really notices. Like, I remember we'd go in after a loss and we would sit there in video and go, oh, he's going to talk about, us missing this tackle that led to this try. But
obvious stuff.
But he would notice things from 3 sets before or 4 tackles before and go, this is what we did wrong.
That led to.
And this, you can see the effect of how this happened 2 plays later, because we weren't able to contain that. It gave them the advantage, which then led to this. Yeah. And which is such a powerful, because it educates players so well and going, okay, me missing the tackle there, that wasn't actually, that was, I can try to make that, but I can make it easier on ourselves by us doing this throughout the set.
Throw a pebble in a pond, and what happens? The reverberations go out. You see the reverberations go from when the pebble in the pond. That's what it's like, what you're talking about there, where you go, a reverberation happens, way over there, but it was a result of the pebble hitting the pond way back here.
Yeah, the ripple effect. Yeah. It's he's so intelligent like that. So his role kind of sits like that, I believe, where he sits back and he will just kind of come in when he notices something that no one else notices, that it might be a slip in complacency, it might be a lack of effort. He's really good at pointing out effort stuff that no one else notices. He will chime in then and he'll tell Loz, or he'll tell someone else.
In presence too.
Yeah.
They'd be one eye on him the whole time. And you're talking about players, from other clubs going there, mate, Craig Bellamy's on the sideline. Like, they'd be working hard to impress him. You know what I mean?
It was interesting. Remember when we had Presto on it, he was like, it's Craig Bellamy. And he didn't have too much to say to me. He just come up and said this thing. But like the whole time I'm going like, shit, that's Craig Bellamy. You just sometimes forget, I suppose, like when you've been coached by a certain player, a certain coach or whatever, you don't realise how much presence they actually have and how other players at other clubs actually still idolise them. It's pretty cool.
Talking about, like, we've spoken about Craig Bellamy. Okay, over into the other bunker, you've got the Queensland blokes, and Harry Grant's been there for a number of series. But you spoke to Trent Liero a little bit. Trent is new, and so he's going in as a fresh set of eyes. What does he say about some of the players?
I caught up with them the day after game 2, actually, for a coffee over in the eastern suburbs. Mate, you know what was funny that Trent said, actually? He goes, leading into a good insight into someone like Kurt Capewell, right? We spoke about how good he played game 2. So he was wrestling with Kurt Capewell the 5 minutes before they're about to go warm up. You get a partner and you pummel and you wrestle just to warm up your shoulders. He said he has never wrestled someone so strong in his life.
Wow.
Yeah, he was like, so there's some players, Jake Javorovich is the same. Tom Eisenhuth, who just retired from the Dragons, and we played together at Melbourne. He was possibly the strongest player I've ever come up against.
So wow, wiry strength.
It's a grip strength that, like, they can throw, like, they're not strong in the weight room, but when they get their hands on you, they could suffocate. They're like a python. They can suffocate you.
So Cameron Smith probably would have been the same. That sort of grip,
Cameron Smith, I'll get to a funny Smithy story actually in a second, but Trent said when he was wrestling with Kurt Capewell, he was like, it was actually getting me angry how strong he was, because I felt like
Vic.
It actually, it made me feel like
he was Vic.
It made me feel weak.
I'm a Vic man,
and I'm about to run out into my first starting role, playing State of Origin game 2, a must-win game, and Kurt Capewell's making him feel weak.
He's a Vic man.
But go over to Cameron Smith for a sec, right? So Smithy was like, no one ever beat Smithy on knee wrestling. So letting people know you drop to your knees and you kind of fight to get the other player to the ground. He was really like strong in that sense, like so strong around the hips and core. And the only person that I ever saw take it too far with Smithy in ground wrestling was Shandor Earl, our man. Shandor took it upon himself. He gets very competitive. He didn't want to lose to him. And we were sitting on the side because forwards and bigger players would go together first and the backs would sit back. And we were geeing up Shandor going, you're not going to beat Smithy, you're not going to beat Smithy. Put him in a rear naked chokehold and started choking him out, like to the point where it was like, you're not going to choke out the captain and Cameron Smith, are you? And Smithy started just like hitting him in the head while he was getting... it was that funny. And we're going, Shandor, let him go. And then like the rest of the coach came and goes, Shandor, no choking out. What are you doing? And Shandor's like, I thought like win at all costs.
I'm going to choke out an immortal.
Yeah.
Tell the grandkids.
It was so funny. Smithy is so strong.
Let's have a talk about Coops. I want to talk about like, okay, probably we have a Blues bias. We try, our thing is that we try to lower our guns as far as, being pure Blues and whatnot. For the sake of having a fair and reasonable discussion about the game. But we have to talk about the things that are just really crucial. Some of the things that New South Wales really need to do to make sure they win this decider.
Yeah. Well, New South Wales are in the box seat, right? Like we've said it since game one. Their display that game one, and it leads into Queensland's, narrative, but our side on paper is one of the most talented sides. We saw it game one. We even saw it second half in game two where you're down 24 points, but they come back and rally and nearly win. Nearly win to the point where you go, one of the best comebacks in Origin history. We are in the box seat if we go out there and play well to wrap up this series, right?
It's a classic narrative.
It is. But
and game two was the classic result to the classic narrative. So we've got to be careful.
Yeah.
We've got to be careful. They're like Coops. The first thing we've got to do, and it's a no-brainer, is discipline. Discipline is imperative for New South Wales. Our discipline was terrible. Forget about all this talk about ref bias and the penalty count. The reason we got belted in the penalty count was our discipline was so bad. Our ball security, which is part of the discipline, was really bad. Hence the reason why we go in at half time and we're down by such a large margin. It was self-inflicted wounds. The second half, which really should give them a lot of confidence if we can get the discipline right, is the fact that when they finally got their focus and their heads right, we nearly instigated a comeback for the ages, a come from behind victory.
Yeah.
Perilously close from one of those comeback from behind victories. But discipline. If we do have one thing we can do in this game, if we are disciplined, our discipline is outstanding, not a doubt in the world we win.
From a player's perspective, right, I want to ask you this question because I know my answer, but I want to get you. When you look at game two and you look at how much defence and how hard New South Wales made it for himself based on the penalty count, based on errors, kicking out in the full, they had to do a lot of defence. When you look, do you take confidence out of that? Coming into camp right now, if you're the halfback dad, you sit there and you go, look at how hard we made this game two for ourselves and we nearly won it. We nearly came back and won it given how much fuel we burned that first half and how undisciplined we were. How much confidence does that give you coming into game three?
Two things, Coop. As long as you establish the reason why you were so ill-disciplined, there's always a reason. When you pull the sheets back, you sometimes can find something like, you know what, boys, if you have a look, our last training session, we're a little bit or whatever, or what about this? Or maybe tactically we tried to do this too much. Let's pull back here and push our energies more there. If you can identify, that gives you a lot of confidence. Secondly, you've got to be very, very careful that something which appears basic, Coop, which really appears basic, and which is blatantly so obvious, doesn't lead you down to the road of complacency.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you just go in there and say, hey, boys, look at all the errors, and look at this, and look at that. Boys, we just got to fix it up and we win. Yeah. It's not that simple. The ill discipline is a byproduct sometimes of not quite having your heads on, having a little bit of complacency there, of which New South Wales, the game two was a classic. It's another example of why there are very few clean sweeps. It's because Queensland were just desperate. There was not an ounce of complacency. They're coming off a win. They had to win. And we had a little bit of a buffer. It wasn't absolutely crucial that we win, which led to just us being a little off as far as desperation. And that's part of that. That was one of the things that led to our ill discipline. That was a factor. So we've just got to be careful. We've got to be on top of those things.
Yeah, okay.
Second one, really obviously one, we just need Nathan to be as close as he can to be 100% fit. Not going to be 100% fit, but close enough that he can actually control all our aspects of our kicking. I think Nathan not being able to really control all those aspects of his kicking and use his array of kicks was almost as big a factor as our discipline.
Do you think because his groin, obviously he didn't kick for Penrith last week when he was goal kicking, do you still think that if you were Nathan, like coming that same tactic, coming sort of 50 in, mainly the shorter attacking kicks he can take control of, but would you still want – are you saying you'd want him to do the longer kicking as well?
I want him doing the longer kicking. I want him, if he's able to, doing the long kicking, the short kicking. All the kicking. I don't care if he doesn't goal kick.
Yeah.
Right? If he believes that there's one sort of area that needs to pull back on a little just to preserve, I'd be more than happy to let Crichton or Lomax do the goal kicking.
Yeah.
And I'd be tempted to just push that ahead anyway and just say, no, Nathan, I'm going to let him do the kicking, mate, because, brother, when we get 50 out, I need you to put some of those dead ball bombs up. Things like that. We have to think about this. Remove everyone else from the game. Nathan Cleary versus the hammer. Think about that. And when Nathan is able to execute all his array of kicks, it's a nightmare for the fullback. He can, Nathan with his kicking game, he creates tries, he gets repeat sets, he allows his team to dominate territorial, and in turn, he builds pressure. He puts enormous pressure on their opposition fullback. If he isn't able to do the majority of our kicking or able to kick as well as he could, then, that brings, that gives just a slither of hope isn't the right word, but it can bring hammer into the game.
Yeah.
Our long kicking game, Nathan needs to kick. For his long kicking, needs to kick great, and our kick chase has got to be even better. So, Nathan, that's a crucial factor, as crucial as our discipline.
Yeah. And it's no surprise how important he is. When we saw game 2, the lack of our start came back to Nathan not being able to control that kicking game, because you saw Jerome kick the first one out in the full.
Yep. Okay. Next thing we need to do, and we didn't do it enough in game 2, whenever we did something happen, tries or breaks or easy meters, we got to get Latrell and Stephen Crichton clean, fast, early ball. And there's a few reasons here. The big one is the fact that, again, Shibasaki and Toya, I guess Latrell and Stephen Crichton, what we've got to be conscious of here is we don't need to do really elaborate sets of 6 or elaborate attacking plays and sequences to create a numerical advantage for those outside men. You just want to sometimes just get to the ball, ping, get them fast, early, clean ball. Get them one-on-one with the opposition player. And, and if you think early in the game, if you're Shibasaki and the ball goes, to Crichton and he goes Bush and he pushes you off first, what does that do to your confidence?
Yeah.
You want in those early touches, you want Latrell and you want Stephen Crichton having time and space opposite those inexperierienced Origin players to try to just dent their confidence a little bit.
What it also doesn't, whether it makes Toya or Shibasaki their confidence, but what it does to your wingers too. Xavier Coates and Valentine Holmes, and you saw it a few times in game 2 where if you don't trust your centre inside you, you feel obliged to come out and jam outside in and try to land on them, but the beauty of Crichton and Latrell is their quick hands. You saw game 1, that beautiful quick hands from Latrell because the winger thought, I'm going to come out and land on him because he didn't trust his centre. Okay,
Coop, that's going to bring me to the next point. That's a good in for me, is that you got to think about this. Slater is going to go to Toya and Shibasaki. He's going to say, fellas, we've got to get off the line fast and we've got to pressure him, get in their face. So if I'm Laurie, I'm telling Nathan and I'm telling Isaiah Yeo and Jerome Luai, I'm saying, boys, vary how far you take the ball into the defence. If you go bang it and you do what a ball player should do and take it all the way into the coalface to your target defender, then you're giving the opportunity for Shibasaki and Toya to snuff our centre outside in. So I'd be encouraging to say, hey, boys, sometimes take it all the way the line to try to strip them shorter numbers, but other times take one step and then let it go.
Yeah.
And you're going to catch them in no man's land.
Yeah.
Because I think at times Toya and Shibasaki are going to preempt outside in.
Yeah, well, it worked for him game 2. I think that was a clear plan. They came in, they wanted to go and jam Dylan Edwards out the back of shape so that he couldn't get early ball to Crichton and Latrell. And then you saw that second half they started to create some variations where they played a little bit earlier or they tunnel balled it, which is firing it straight to the centre straight through. So they can't jam on them. So I imagine that they'll have a bit of a plan around that jamming.
Critter and Latrell have got to help their halves as well. Those two blokes are so good. I don't want them just sitting in their 10-metre corridor. I mean, look at Turbo the other night for Manly. Yeah. Switching. Having the intelligence to look and go, nothing really on here. I'm going to switch to the other side. And you think about this. You think about Latrell coming to the other side and him and Crichton together, working in combination. I mean, the mismatch that creates. I want to see them do more of that. In fact, I can't believe more clubs don't do it. You know, trusting that there's a lot of smart centres out there that can clearly look up and see the ball coming across and go, nothing's going to be on offer here. I'm going to switch to the long side.
Yeah, it is weird that clubs probably don't do that as much anymore. I think they like to have their structure.
Control.
Yeah. But there's times when you can have your controlled structure and then giving your smart, creative outside backs, whether it's a winger or a centre, license to do that. Turbo's good because he has footy instincts of a halfback.
Yep.
And he can sniff. He knows when he's got to stay there, and then he knows when the ball's going over that way he can go.
It opens a whole Pandora's box as well, as far as the opposition and how they react to it. Because back in the day, Coop, if I'm a centre on the left side and I'm marking Mal Meninga, all of a sudden the ball's coming over here and there's a play of the ball and he switches, guess what? I used to switch as well. I'd have to switch as well. So you're not creating that mismatch. It's not as vital these days as it was in the 80s and the 70s, simply because our edge back row is so athletic.
Yeah.
But still, it'd just be interesting to see how a defence would react.
These days now, I've been in games where there has been centres that used to switch over. Corey Oates used to do it a bit for the Broncos. He'd switch from the wing and go and float over the left side when we played against them. And now the plan always is in the modern day game is the winger just communicates when he sees the winger or the centre go, the winger would yell out.
Yep.
And then they push the back rower over to the open side. They don't really follow them anymore. Just because they'd like to keep everyone in their certain defensive.
Of course.
Yeah. But
the other one, Coop, we've got to do is we have to be willing. Queensland going to be right up for it physically. They're going to kick long into the corners and they're going to try to jam us. Game 2, unsurprisingly, after what we did to them with our yardage in game 1, they pushed enormous amount of energy, defensive energy into stopping plays 1, 2, and 3. Edwards to Zach Lomax. And we didn't there was once down the right side we gave the ball, went 1, 2, really simple 3 passes to Stephen Crichton, who took 20 metres. We've got to be able to do that.
Yeah.
They're going to kick long to us, they're going to tighten and they're going to try to rush. If they do that, we don't need to try to be fancy. It's just 1, 2, 3 passes.
Yeah.
Take the easy meters. They're daring you. Come on, push the ball to the edges. Come on, take a risk. Well, it ain't a risk if you do it simple. 1, 2, 3, take 20 meters, play the ball, then start going forward.
Yeah, if you don't think about scoring a try or going around a team off it, if you have the mentality of I'm just running to get tackled in 20 meters, it's pretty safe. It's a pretty safe. You're not looking for it. Should we have a predictions?
A couple of.
Go on.
There's just another thing I want to speak about here, and this is massive for New South Wales. It's a huge one. Is Munster and Tom Dearden, but particularly Cameron Munster. In the Cameron Munster era, Queensland have been very, very difficult to beat when they have a run first, pass second mentality. Yeah. You know, when Munster runs the ball, things happen. So it's very easy to say, oh, don't let him run the ball. We don't have control of that. What's so important, though, is for Munster, we do not present visual opportunity. Our defence is set, or as set as it can be. Sometimes it'll be a quick play of the ball, but basically don't show him space. Don't have your spacings wrong. Have your spacings perfect and have blokes there sitting there nominating Munster. So when Munster looks up, he doesn't recognise visual opportunity. If he wants to run the ball, he's going to have to do it through blind faith.
Yeah.
Because the moment he spots that someone looks a little tired here, there's a little bit of space, they're a little bit disjointed, they're not coming off their line quick enough, he'll go.
Yeah.
So prevention's better than the cure. The other one is Tom Dearden. Tom Dearden doesn't stop. He just goes all the time. And his trademark is show and go. They can't be conned into one of his dummies. No dummies off Dearden. And the third one's your mate Harry Grant. I've spoken about discipline before. I will say this, be willing here and there during the game to give a 6-tackle repeat set away if it means controlling Harry.
Yeah,
right?
slow the play of the ball.
Slow the play of the balls, get your markers set. Right? If he regularly gets out of dummy half, we're in trouble.
Yeah, particularly inside your own your own try line, you're trying to defend it. You saw how effective he was in game 2 when he gets out and his halves are pushing off him. But like you said with Dearden, show and go, not presenting those, trying to present a straight line so he doesn't have any visual cues where he knows he needs to run.
Yeah.
All when you're out there in the washing machine, and it's a hard discipline to have, isn't it?
It's just got to be hard and fast rule. Even if they've got a little advantage on you, don't be tempted to try to protect the 3-on-2 on the outside. No dummies.
Yeah.
No dummies. Let the outside men solve it.
Who wins, Matthew?
New South Wales win. I reckon we get our discipline right. I think we win. I reckon 28-8.
Yeah.
I'm going to go man of the match, Nathan Cleary. But sort of injury hasn't allowed him to really dominate the series like we thought he was going to be able to. If he's fit, I think this could be the game.
I'm with you on that. I had Queensland game 2, but I feel New South Wales are they're too good a side, I think. And I think they'll have their heads screwed on given the first half of game 2. I've got New South Wales, and I've got them 22-12.
Nice.
And I have my man of the match. I don't have Nathan Cleary. I'm trying to think who I've got. You know who I've got? I'm thinking maybe a Payne Haas again. Well, Payne Haas game 1 and 3. Don't go broke back in Payne.
Yeah, I know, mate. It's you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Isaiah, you too. Keep an eye. Isaiah Yo's had an outstanding Origin series.
He has. Jackson.
You thinking, Jack?
Hit me, Jack.
I'm going with. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I reckon Jerome's going to redeem himself. I'm thinking Jerome Luai, man of the match and first try scorer.
Yep.
And I think the margin's going to be about 12 points.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, wow. That is conceivable. I like it.
Yeah.
Nice one. Enjoy the game.
Nice one, Daddy.